The Jacksonville Jaguars made a huge and important commitment to offensive tackle Anton Harrison, and I'll tell you today why it was the correct move.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Locked On Jaguars podcast. I'm the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. My name is Tony Wiggins. Let me tell you what we have for you today. At the end of the show, we'll talk about who might be next to get a commitment from the organization. In the middle, why is it important that they re-signed or that they made a commitment to offensive tackle Anton Harrison? And at the top of the show today, we're going to talk about the fact that the team actually picked up the fifth-year option for Anton Harrison, the starting right tackle as of today. We speak. I don't know if they're going to move on or change or anything like that. I guess they have the shot to do it. I don't think they're going to do it though, because they've had so many times in the past to move him from right tackle to left tackle. But we'll get into that. The big story is that they've made a commitment, another commitment. This is the second time since this team has been here that they have saw an incumbent player actually it's the third time they've actually extended Colvan Landon too. So it's the second offensive lineman that this regime has extended. But as far as the guys that were first round picks that had fifth-year options, this was the second one. Travon Walker was the first. He'll be playing this year on a $15 million fifth-year option. There's some speculation that it may get done, that he may get an extension. We'll see how that goes. But right now, it's all about Anton Harrison, man, getting the commitment. I believe in 2027, that means he'll make about 19 and a half or a little bit more than that $1 million per year, which these days the going rate for a right tackle is way above that, a good right tackle anyway. And I think Anton Harrison is a good right tackle. Let's park right there for a minute. What are the Jaguars committing to? They're committing to a very young player. Anton Harrison is extremely young. He'll be going into his fourth year. So he won't be playing on that. He won't be playing on the fifth-year option this year. This is something that they are allowed to do prior to the fourth year for a first-round pick. You can decide whether you want to exercise that fifth-year option, and that's what they've done. And it's the same thing with Travon. He played last year on the fourth year of his contract. This gives them some time. It's 2 years that they know that he'll be there. He'll be a part of this team. Of course, they get a chance to always do something earlier with his contract. Doing it earlier seems to put money. The way this will work is this: if they decide to do something earlier with Anton Harrison during the fourth year or after the fourth year of his contract, before that fifth year starts, and this is the same position they're in with Travon, and it was the position they were in with Josh Allen in the previous regime. What happens is they can work out a long-term deal where that last year in the $19 million, what the Jaguars could then do is say, look, bro, we want you to be here. We're going to give you an extension, but we're going to do it a year early. The advantage for doing it a year early, which would be at some point after this upcoming season, is you never know how a guy's career is going to go. And the guy might want that bird in the hand. Look, they're going to put $30 million in your pocket today in the form of a signing bonus. Now, the flip side of it is you're already guaranteed $19 million, regardless of what they do. So they're adding $11 million. And so you can hold out for a little bit more. You can say, nah, I'm already due 19. Let's just play this thing out. And then if you have to franchise tag me or whatever, you can do it that way. But a lot of people often go for the earlier route, the bird in the hand route, where you're going to get that amount of cash up front, but then you're probably going to get $60 to $70 million in guaranteed money. That's why you would do it early. The team would do it early because they would essentially want to say, because we're doing it early, we're going to do it at today's prices. Even if you look at Trevor Lawrence's contract that was done early, Trevor Lawrence is playing for a bargain right now compared to a lot of these other dudes that are getting contracts. That's why you would want to do that early, because if you hit right on the player, and it seems like they've hit right on Trevor, if you hit right on the player, what happens is you pay them based on yesterday's prices, and in the future they would be playing at a little bit of a discount. So there's a lot of things that will go into this. The main thing is the Jaguars have shown their hand to you. And this is what I always say about who they pick, who they sign. What it will tell you is all of the discussions that we've had in the past, all of this discussions leading up to this, those questions get answered whenever they make a move like this. They tell you who they like and who they want and who they value based on what their actions will be. And even though we have heated debates leading up to it, I always just sort of say we'll revisit that. I kind of plant a flag there because I know at some point there's going to be an action. And that action will let you know exactly what they think, but it will also let you know exactly what they were thinking. And what they've been thinking this entire time is we're going to evaluate this. Last year during training camp, there were some of us that thought Anton Harrison's job was at stake because he was splitting reps and he wasn't even first in the drills with Chuma Edoga. He was splitting reps. There was times when Chuma Edoga was running out there and it was just like, and it was all about competition at that point. And Anton answered the bell. He started doing things differently. He started looking different. He started moving differently. And then when you read the tea leaves, everything that you noticed, if you were at practice or if you're talking to other media members, like there's some people that go down there way more than I do, and I was discussing it with them, they were like, yeah, man, it seems like something's going on, with that. And then myself and Mia O'Brien, Mia hosts the squad show here on the Locked On Podcast Network, as well as a whole bunch of other stuff. Mia's all over the place. Shout out to her. But she was there with me, and I was there with her. We were sitting at the round table, and everybody was crowding around, all the wide receivers coaches and the pass rushers, and we were sitting there with the offensive line coach, Sean Statter, and he looked at us and said, all right, let's go. What you got? And I think Mia elicited she was asking about the offensive lineman. And I've told this story before. He glowed when Walker Little's name was mentioned. And then when we asked about Anton Harrison, it was like, he's got to keep working, basically. I'm paraphrasing. I can't tell you, I can't remember exactly what he said was Anton. Yeah, he's coming along. He has to keep. It just didn't sound like he was all of that enthused at that point with what he saw from Anton, not necessarily that he didn't like his talent. It sounded like, yeah, talented player, but we're coming around. We need to see him do more, this, that, and the third. And at some point, the light seemed to come on. And during the season, he was even pointed out. It was even pointed out by Liam Cohen on a play. I believe it was on a play where Travis Etienne scored a touchdown. Liam pointed out, did you see Anton on that play? And this is what I love about coaches. They notice all the little stuff that we don't. We probably were sitting there just looking at the dude who had the ball in his hand, high stepping and cheering and ready to grab a beer and slap hands with people and hug your wife. And all of a sudden, the head coach comes out like a day later and goes, did you see Anton on that play? And it made you go back and take a look. And Anton Harrison's running down the sideline, giving anybody and everybody the business that wanted it, and even the ones that didn't want it. And he was step for step with a running back. And what that showed was a guy that he was enjoying the result of hard work. And if you could see his face, and we couldn't, you would almost imagine that what he was going through was, this stuff really does work. Proof of concept. Work hard, listen to the coaches, and guess what? Pretty soon you'll start playing well, and then you'll enjoy playing well. And now you can enjoy what his bank account is going to see in 2027, another $19 million. But more importantly, a commitment to his future here in Jacksonville. I'm going to tell you why that's important in the segment number 2 here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Robinhood. That's right. What if sports was Traded like markets. Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but I never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. All right, man, we moving and grooving here on Locked On Jaguars. Talking about Anton Harrison getting his his fifth year option, not his first year option, his fifth year option picked up by the Jacksonville Jaguars, explaining how we got here, his improved play, his acceptance of coaching, and those guys. Shout out to the coaching staff for being able to extract the vast potential that Anton Harrison had shown when he came out of Oklahoma as a first-round pick. By the way, that's another player that was picked by the previous regime. And I love the fact that there's like no ego involved in this, right? It doesn't matter whether we picked you, somebody else picked you. If you can play, we got you covered, and you're going to be here with Jacksonville for a long time. It adds to the continuity, too, of the unit, in my opinion, that right along with quarterback and receiver, they need the continuity. And it's a little bit different because they don't touch the ball. But the continuity and the cohesion and the chemistry, is there another C that we forgot, because we always mention those things when we talk about the offensive line. And this is the part of your team that, even though you need depth, and it's important to have depth, it's not the kind of depth that allows you or makes you want to rotate people. When you have depth at defensive line or some of these other positions, you move the different pieces around to get a little bit of a different look. Not with the offensive line. You want the same look. You don't want to tap into your depth. And this sounds terrible to the dude that's the swing offensive lineman or the number 7 or the number 8 guy, but we don't want to see you on the field if we have our druthers, right? We're glad that you're a good player, but we only want to see you out there doing blowouts. We want the regular offensive line, the starters in the game. We don't blowouts or in the case of somebody getting banged up. Outside of that, no, sir. We're going to need that. We're going to need that starting offensive line to stay in the game, because you're going to need that every single time that they get together and they play and they go through the good or the bad. What ends up happening is, at some point in the long run, that's going to make them a better team, because they're going to learn from it. Those guys get to know each other. They get to know how the other person moves. All of these things. I often liken it to a Temptations or to a choreographer of a Chris Brown concert or a Beyonce concert, when everyone is in step, right? You know how they got that way. Practice, practice, practice with the same people over and over again. And it's the one part of your football team that you have no problem not rotating people. So it's extremely important that they have some stability. And now they have bookend tackles, one in Colvan Landon that'll be starting the first year of his extension this year. And now Anton Harrison, who has this year and then next year, is also guaranteed, and they've made a commitment. It's not just about the money. It's about the commitment to him, his future. And now this is a chance for him to get even better under Coach Sean Sterrett, under the same system with people that believe in you, coming off of what I believe is your best season. All of these guys now, for the first time in most of them in forever since they've been in the National Football League, you're going to get a situation where they are coming off of a winning season where they believe. And that's why training camp is going to be so important to me this year, because they're probably going to walk a little different. They're going to act a little bit differently. They're not going to be the team that comes out there as the little engine that nobody believes, with this natural chip on their shoulder. Now they're going to have the chip on their shoulder because they believe that it's unfinished business. Even though nothing that happened last year is going to help them this year, it's still going to be a different thing to see. And now you're going to see it with two bookend tackles that they know are going to be on this team for the next couple of years. The interior of the offensive line with Robert Hainsey, he's the center, all right? Then you have Ezra Cleveland and Pat McCary. Now, those guys have to hold off younger players. Those younger players being Jonah Monheim, Wyatt Milam, and anyone else that if they decide to go out and make a move. Walker Little right now is the swing tackle behind both of those guys. And Walker Little makes a pretty nice amount of change. And people, some people might believe that that's a lot of money for a backup. But when you look at the fact that Anton Harrison has another year on his rookie deal, and then the $19 million isn't crazy. Colvan Landon has a reasonable deal for a left tackle in the National Football League or an offensive lineman in the National Football League. When you think of their money added all together with all three. So Walker Little's money sounds like the kind of money that a fringe starter gets, or maybe a solid starter, or an older proven veteran who maybe is not in his prime, or a young ascending player. It's probably a little bit of an overpayment if you look at it on paper. But when you add all three of those guys, the two starters and Walker Little as the swing, it's probably sitting well within the realm of where teams would really want to be in terms of the commitment that they make to those individual players. So that's how they can make this work. That's how this on paper, as well as not on paper, from football sense, that's how it looks. And I believe it's a good deal. Now, where can the improvement come from? Because we know that they're not great on the offensive line, but they are pretty good on the offensive line. This is one of the reasons I think that if and when the right person in the draft is there on the board, I can't imagine that being your executive vice president is a Hall of Fame offensive lineman, that he ain't gonna make somebody at least take another look for whatever Wyatt Milam was a 3rd round pick. Jonah Monheim was a 7th round pick, and they played last year. Some in reserve. Some of it was keen evaluation. Some of it was also the fact that they didn't have much behind those starters. So that is something that definitely will be looked at and addressed, I think, in the draft, especially if a player that is highly ranked, that has versatility, because you don't necessarily need another guard. You don't necessarily need another center. You don't necessarily need a tackle, but maybe you can get someone who adds depth and can play all positions, or at least two of those spots. Or maybe you go add 2 people that can play 2 of those spots, and then you let them fight it out in training camp. Because when you name all of the players, which we just named 8 guys, right? You got the starters, and then you got Little, Milam, Monheim, and you also have Chuma Edoga. Well, Chuma Edoga's on the last year of his contract here, okay? Walker Little could possibly be someone that is moved. Jonah Monheim hasn't shown enough that you can't put him in a situation where it's at least competition. The reason why I say that is because, do you know how Colvan Landon got here? Colvan Landon got here because Green Bay had 10 guys that could play, and they didn't have room for him, and everyone around the league knew that the kid had potential. The former GM here, Trent Baalke, made the move, and he got Colvan Landon for a 6th round pick, put him in a couple of years of development, they had him here through both regimes as a reserve, a valuable reserve, and that's why you always hold on to him. And then when he got his chance to play, he outplayed everyone's idea of who he was here, and that's how he ended up getting a contract extension. That pretty much is the kind of money that changes, your financial trajectory as an NFL player. And good for him. I'm glad he got it. And good for the Jaguars for seeing it, because if they'd have let him go, they'd have been on the market for left tackle. And quite frankly, there weren't you never find the kind of left tackles you think are on the open market. You just don't find those guys walking around in free agency. And if they do, they got some warts. There's something going on. They're either too old, or they're just a stopgap until you can find someone else. So I do believe that there's still room for improvement through competition, but it has to be the right player, not just to grab a body in the draft, but look for them to at least grab one more offensive lineman in the draft and create some competition for this team. Who might be next to get a contract extension? Fastest little break ever here on Locked On Jaguars, and we'll get to it in just a second. All right, man, running it down here, third and final segment. Who might be next to get a commitment, whether it be in the form of a contract extension, another option picked up? There's no fifth-year options left right now. Anton Harrison was the guy who was eligible for that this year, just like Travon and Devin Lloyd and Travis Etienne were last year. Travis Etienne actually played on his fifth-year option last year, so his contract totally ran its course here. Devin Lloyd did not receive a fifth-year option. Travon Walker did receive a fifth-year option. Of course, Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence were 2 first-round picks in the same class, followed up by Travon Walker and Devin Lloyd. So 2 of those 4 are still here. And that talks about the positional value of the quarterback position, as well as the edge, as well as the offensive line. And this is what you expect to happen. Those guys have to get second contracts if they played up to it. And so far, all of them have. We'll see about Travon. That's the thing we're waiting on. Is it going to be Travon Walker? Is it going to be Walker Little? I mean, not Walker Little. I don't know why I go through this sometimes, y'all. Is it going to be Parker Washington? That's why I knew it was a WA in there somewhere. Parker Washington may be the player that's up for a contract extension that may end up getting that right away. Possibly one of the linebackers, Ventrell Miller. If Ventrell Miller can play really, really well early in the year, and then they can keep him at a price, if he's playing well, keep him at a price that is commensurate with what they believe an off-ball linebacker should make, he's possible. Of course, Antonio Johnson is coming up on something because he's getting to the point where he's getting close to becoming a free agent as well. He's another guy that I believe could be absolutely eligible to get it. Or maybe they just sit still. Maybe one guy, maybe Parker and possibly Travon, since he's on his fifth-year option and you don't want him to get into free agency. But after that, man, I think things start to clear up pretty good for the Jaguars. The balance in all of this is staying competitive while you make all of these business decisions, because it's really hustling backwards if you're making sound business decisions, but you're not putting good players on the field that can give you a chance to win. The goal here is to not be to win the Super Bowl of business and contract negotiations. The goal here is to win a Super Bowl on the field, and you do that with players. But there's a way that you have to go about doing this, because every time you, in a lot of these cases, when you add a player, you also lose something. And the balance in all of this is it's almost like a pendulum. You're trying to get that thing on a scale to where it's balanced out. Just whatever your team leads with, you need to have that in abundance. And Liam Cohen has said that they want to be physical. They want to run the football. And it's pretty much a no-brainer. I think if you look at the 5 guys that were first-round picks between 21 and 22, it shouldn't surprise anybody that running back and linebacker were the 2 positions that did not get extended beyond their first-round contracts out of the guys who were picked in the first round. But that the quarterback, the right tackle, and the edge rusher are guys that this team is committed to. So that just it goes to show you again that positional value always wins, but guys actually have to be really, really good football players on top of that. And the players that I mentioned are good football players. So we'll see. There are no other guys at positions of importance outside of Parker Washington, because I would say wide receiver. I'd go cornerback, tackle, center, wide receiver, edge rusher, corner, and defensive tackle, since we need a defensive tackle. In any position, let me just clear this up. Any position where you don't have good players and it shows up is a position that is a priority. They're all important. Special teams, kicker, long snapper. If you ain't got a good long snapper, watch a football game and watch that ball bounce up and down and see how that kind of stuff affects a game. You can actually lose games because of that. You can lose games because your kicker can't kick. You can lose games because your punter is having a slump and he keeps kicking it out of the end zone, losing field position, or he keeps shanking it, right? All of these positions are important. If you don't have a running back that can pass protect and your team is down, all your running backs are just downhill runners, not one of them knows how to block a lick, that's bad because now you got to just spread people out and not even have protection for your quarterback, or either bring an extra tight end in the block, and that may take you out of your scheme. So all positions are important, but there are other positions that are just so valuable, and mainly it's because you have to find players where you have to make sure the guys that are hard to find, the things that are rare, good linemen, good quarterbacks, good edge rushers, good wide receiver, you are not going to get them without drafting or developing or trading and then developing, but you have to have a sharp scout's eye to see it. So far, the Jaguars, after 1 year, it's been exactly about 1 year since the staff has been here, maybe a little bit more than that. They've shown that they have the ability to really evaluate players. It ain't just about calling plays. It's not just about getting the best out of one person and having that one person lift the franchise. It is about good, sound, solid football decisions. And I hope what this has done is give the Jaguar fans the confidence that they need to actually sit here and truly believe that, man, the dog days are over. I hope it also shows you that just because those dog days were present doesn't mean that everyone that was involved player-wise needs to go, because now you see guys keep getting re-signed that were already here. This was all about leadership. It was all about communication. Yeah, some coaching and play calling, because that needed to improve too. But tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about what does it feel like for you guys to really be a part of a real football operation from top to bottom, and see the world of difference that it makes when people that have good intentions but aren't aligned, how and why it could go wrong. And then you see now how this goes right. Doesn't mean anything until they get on the field, but at least you win when you're supposed to win. And right now, the Jaguars made a winning move yesterday by retaining right tackle Anton Harrison for at least another year. All right. We'll hit a bonus show later on today where we'll talk about positional value a little bit more and dig a little bit deeper into that. And then tomorrow, of course, we'll have the show about how it feels to be a part of a competent franchise. Until then, man, make sure y'all click on the Everydayers Club down in the description. You get access to ad-free shows on our audio platforms and merchandise. We'll see you.